The lights were blinding that night, cameras flashing, the crowd rising to his feet, and in the middle of it all stood Lee Junho, holding the Baeksang trophy in his hands. His eyes shimmered, not just with joy, but with something deeper. Years of pain, years of being overlooked, and maybe disbelief that he had actually made it here. To most people watching, this was just another award show moment. But for those who knew his story, it was almost unreal. Because once, this same man could barely stand. Once, he was told he would never be good enough. Once, he lay in a hospital bed wondering if he had already lived the best days of his life. So how did he get here? How does a man who was never the most popular, never the most confident, end up becoming one of Korea's most respected actors? To answer that, we have to go back, way back, before the trophies, before the fame, before 2 p.m. even existed. It's 2006. A 16-year-old boy from Ilsan is standing in front of 6,000 contestants, each one fighting for a single trainee spot at JYP Entertainment. The air is tense, the judges are cold, and the boy's hands are shaking. But when he begins to dance, something in him changes. He's not the most handsome, not the flashiest, but he moves like he's got something to prove, and maybe he does. That day, Lee Junho didn't just win a competition. He started a war with his own limits. He had no idea that every victory ahead would come with a price, and that the fire he carried inside him would one day burn brighter than anyone ever expected. Because long before he became a respected actor, he was just a boy with one dream and a pain no one else could see. The dream came true in 2008 when Junho finally debuted as part of 2 p.m. The group exploded overnight. Stages shook, fans screamed, and cameras followed them everywhere. To the world, they were untouchable. But behind the spotlight, Junho's reality looked very different. Every move had to be perfect, every performance more intense than the last. He pushed his body harder than anyone else, rehearsing until his muscles gave out. Then one night, during a concert rehearsal, something snapped. A sharp crack ran through his neck and he collapsed. Doctors later told him his shoulder was torn, his spine fractured, his discs damaged. They said he needed to rest, but the next day there was another show, and he went on stage anyway. That's the kind of person he was, too stubborn to quit, too proud to show weakness. The crowd saw a flawless performer. What they didn't see was the pain hidden behind every sharp move, every perfect smile. Even during his peak years, Junho quietly battled another wound that couldn't be seen on X-rays. Back in high school, classmates had mocked him for his looks. They compared him to Rain and called him the ugly version. Those words never really left him. And even as an idol standing in front of thousands, he often felt invisible. While other members were chosen for acting gigs or variety shows, Junho stayed behind in the dorm, wondering when it would be his turn. He wanted to act more than anything, but no one believed in him yet. So he poured all that frustration into performing. He flipped higher, he danced harder, he smiled wider, until the exhaustion blurred into numbness. There were nights when he stared at the ceiling, thinking maybe this was all he'd ever be, an idol with a body falling apart and a dream no one wanted to hear. But life has a strange way of testing those who refuse to give up. If you want to show your support for Lee Junho and his journey, comment 1 to cheer him on and encourage him to go even further. Because what came next would change everything he thought he knew about pain, passion, and purpose. The hospital room was silent except for the hum of the machines. Junho lay there, his body wrapped in bandages, his shoulder taped, his pride bruised. For the first time, he couldn't dance, couldn't perform, couldn't even pretend to be fine. The boy who had spent his whole life running suddenly had nowhere to go. But then something unexpected happened. One afternoon, while flipping through channels in his hospital bed, he overheard a TV report about auditions for a new movie called Cold Eyes, a crime thriller. An open casting call, no guarantees, no safety net, just a chance. And that was enough for him. Still swollen, still healing, Junho walked into that audition room like a man who had nothing left to lose. No idol glow, no fancy clothes, just raw hunger. The casting directors noticed it right away. His movements were sharp, his focus unbreakable, his energy alive in a way they couldn't explain. They didn't see an idol trying to act. They saw an actor who had already lived through pain. He got the part. That was the moment the world began to shift. Cold Eyes wasn't just a film for him, it was his rebirth. From there, Junho kept taking small, careful steps into acting, supporting roles, minor characters, learning, failing, growing. Bit by bit, the label idol actor began to fade. Then came 2017. Good Manager. His role as the cold, sharp Seo Yul caught everyone off guard. Viewers who once rolled their eyes at the thought of an idol acting suddenly leaned forward. Even veteran actor Nam Gung-min admitted he was impressed. Junho was no longer being tolerated, he was being respected. And then, Just Between Lovers. It was the role that bared his soul. To play a man broken by tragedy, Junho isolated himself on set, lost weight, and stopped talking to others just to live inside the character's loneliness. When the show aired, fans didn't see 2 PM's Junho anymore. They saw a man who carried the quiet ache of survival in his eyes. But nothing could have prepared him or anyone for what was about to come next. When the Red Sleeve premiered in 2021, everything changed. Junho became King Jonjo, a man torn between love and duty, and the world couldn't look away. His performance was raw, commanding, and heartbreakingly human. Ratings soared, critics praised, and suddenly, idol actor wasn't a punchline, it was a badge of honor. And then came that night at the Baksang Awards. When his name was called for Best Actor, the room erupted. Junho walked up to the stage, tears in his eyes, holding the trophy as if it weighed the memories of every fall, every scar, every sleepless night. For the first time, he wasn't proving anyone wrong. He was simply standing where he belonged. From a hospital bed to that stage, Lee Junho had rewritten his own story. After the Red Sleeve, everything around Junho changed. He was no longer just the idol who made it. He was the actor everyone wanted to work with. Offers came pouring in, more than 100 scripts in just a few months. He could have chosen any big-budget drama, any high-profile role, but instead, he surprised everyone. He picked a romantic comedy, Kdrama. It wasn't heavy, it wasn't political, and it wasn't meant to win awards. It was light, fun, and full of warmth, the exact opposite of the intense, wounded characters that had defined him. People were curious. Why would someone who had just earned the highest respect in the industry choose something so simple? But that's exactly what made it special. On set, he laughed more. He smiled for real. He shared easy jokes with Yuna, his co-star, and for once, he didn't have to carry the weight of proving himself. Kdrama wasn't about survival, it was about joy. It was Junho learning to breathe again after years of holding his breath. And the world responded. The show became one of Netflix's most-watched non-English series of 2023, topping global charts week after week. Viewers around the world fell in love with his effortless charm. For them, this wasn't just a character. It was a glimpse into a man who had finally allowed himself to be happy. Junho once said in an interview, "You don't always need pain to grow. Sometimes peace teaches you more." It was a quiet line, but it spoke volumes about how far he had come. He no longer needed to fight to prove his worth. He had already done that. Now, it was about choosing what made his heart full. Whether it was a serious role, a gentle romance, or something in between, every project from then on carried a piece of his truth. calm, grounded, and deeply human. The fire inside him never went out. It just learned how to burn softly. When you look back at Lee Junho's journey, it feels almost unreal. The boy who once stood trembling in front of 6,000 contestants, the idol who performed through broken bones, the man who lay in a hospital bed thinking his career was over, he became the symbol of quiet resilience in Korean entertainment. What makes his story different isn't just the success, it's the way he carried himself through failure. He never shouted, never demanded sympathy. He let his work speak, and eventually, the world listened. Junho didn't just redefine what it means to be an idol actor, he erased the line between the two completely. Even now, as he steps into new projects like Typhoon Company, you can sense that same calm strength. A story set during South Korea's 1997 financial crisis, the show mirrors everything Junho represents: struggle, rebuilding, and rediscovering purpose. It almost feels written for him, as if life keeps finding new ways to tell his story. But maybe that's why people connect with him so deeply. He's proof that you don't have to be the loudest to be heard. You don't have to be perfect to be respected. Sometimes the quietest people leave the biggest mark. Lee Junho's legacy isn't just about fame or awards. It's about endurance, about standing back up when no one's watching, about finding light where there was only pain. For fans who followed him since his 2 p.m. days, every new success feels personal, as if they've grown with him step by step, fall by fall, victory by victory. And if his journey has taught us anything, it's this: true strength doesn't need to scream. It simply keeps going. Information in this video was gathered from multiple sources. If any details are incorrect, please let us know in the comments. And if this story inspired you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so more people can discover incredible journeys like Lee Junho's. Because sometimes, quiet strength is the loudest of all.